Hey guys, welcome back to Texas Size Gardening. So it is raining outside, so today's video is going to be indoors. You've seen me show you the watermelons and the cucumbers and, you know, the squash and the raised bed and tomatoes and things like that. But I actually want to show you what those varieties are. You know, what color are those tomatoes? Are they indeterminate or determinate? So I'm going to walk you through all the seeds that I planted. I have all of my seed packets in this large container. This is actually used for photographs, to store photographs in it. I purchased 2 of them. I have all of my spring and summer seeds in this container, and I have another container for cool weather crops. So let's go ahead and get started. Tomatoes. I love tomatoes. You have indeterminate tomatoes and you have determinate tomatoes. The two differences is that with indeterminate tomatoes, they are going to grow and grow and grow. Those are the ones that can get over 7 feet tall if you let them. They are late to give you fruit, but once they do start to give you fruit, they produce it back to back to back to back to back. As long as that plant is healthy, it'll keep giving you tomatoes. With determinate tomato plants, they're going to get to a certain height and then they're going to stop growing. They're going to give you all of the fruit at once. So all of the tomatoes all at once, and then afterwards they're done. They're not going to keep going. So indeterminate versus determinate tomatoes. So keeping that in mind, I have Brad's Atomic Grape, which is an indeterminate, Tomito. I love this tomato. I tried it for the first time last year, and I love the fact that it's semi-determinate. I don't really have to stake it to keep it, you know, nice and hardy, but I do just to make sure. This is called Perron tomato, and those little tomatoes, they got to like this size, and they were so delicious. I love them. Then I also have Ice's Candy Cherry. I've got a determinate tomato called Betelux. And I write on my seed packets so I know what they are, typically how many days, you know, to actually produce and things like that. Barry's Crazy Cherry. Principe Borgia. Roma Tomato. And then I also have some other tomatoes in the ground that I bought at the store just because I wanted to have, again, waves of different periods where I was harvesting tomatoes. To jump start on the growing season, I did purchase some started cucumbers, but I also put seeds in the garden. And I'm hoping that those seeds germinate and come up. And if anything, it'll be succession growing because I'll have the second wave coming in at a different time and also giving cucumbers. So I do have silver slicer cucumbers in the garden. These grow about, I'm gonna say yay big. They're a white flesh color, very pretty, and they're not spiky. They're very smooth, very cucumbery. But at the same time, the skin, the flesh isn't hard to bite into. So that's one that I'm growing. I also have Cucumber Muncher growing in the garden as well. And then I did do a Cucumber Straight A, which is really a typical cucumber that you would see. But these are going to be a little longer. I love the following variety of okra. I grew it last year, and I tell you what, it did phenomenal in my area. I'm in 9B. So it was okra Gold Coast. I had tons of pods from it, and I mean it did really well. Heavy Hitter is one that I'm gonna try to grow again this year. I did have it last year. I didn't have any really good success with it, but I'm gonna try to grow it again because this one allegedly gives you all pods like this, and I love okra. The kids love okra. My husband loves okra. So if I can get one that gives us so many pods at once, we're good to go. Baker Creek released this okra Motherland, and this one's supposed to get like 15 feet in height, And I'm curious to see about how the okra tastes, the pods themselves, how much I get from it. You know, it's late maturing from what the seed packet says, and I only have 2 of these because these definitely need space. So we'll see how these do. I might be pleasantly surprised. I found this Sunspot Dwarf Cola Sunflower. I do have to disclose, I am not affiliated with any of the seed companies that I mentioned in this video. I've just found their seeds and really have come to enjoy the seeds. So I'm just sharing my information with you guys and my feedback on them. But this one, as you've been seeing in the videos, it's probably about, I don't know, like 1.5 feet tall, and it's already getting ready to put on sunflowers. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, and I'm happy that it's short and it grows so quickly for me. I do have some Rudbeckia in the garden as well. And again, this year I'm trying to incorporate more flowers so that way I attract more of the pollinators. I also did some Snapdragon mix. This one came from Hudson Seed Valley. And let me see, let me turn it over. They're gonna look a little like that. And then, my favorite. I grew zinnias last year. Okay, this is just one box for some different varieties of flowers, right? Well, zinnias have their own separate box because I fell in love with this plant last year. So I tried some of the smaller type of zinnias, some of the bigger type of zinnias, and I came to love the bigger varieties of zinnias like Benary's Giant Mix and things like that. So this year I gave all of my smaller zinnia seeds away and I kept all the larger ones. So this year we have growing the Zinnia Canary Bird, Meteor, my favorite, Purple Prince, Johnny's Seed. I found the Benary's Giant Mix. And then also the Giant Dahlia Flowered Zinnia. Got Polar Bear Zinnias. Queen Lime Zinnias. And the Orange King Zinnia as well. So those are some, hi! So those are some of the zinnias that I have growing in the garden. Okay, now we're on to green beans. I have 2 varieties of green beans and I've separated them. One is the trellising kind and one is the bush variety. So for the ones that trellis, or vine out if you will, I love this one. It's the long bean, the Chinese red noodle bean. These have been a staple in my garden for a couple of years now. I love them. You know, they're nice and crunchy. They're great in stir fries. Don't steam them. They don't do too good in steaming. I found Triunfo Violeto, which, oh man, these were gorgeous. I grew them towards the end of fall last year, and they were beautiful on the trellis. So if not for taste, grow them for the beauty that they give you. I also have rattlesnake pole beans. And I do have Kentucky Wonder. I just haven't put it in just because I wanted to give these a chance to grow. Again, container gardening, so sometimes I have to pick and choose what I'm going to grow for that season. For the bush varieties, I've got Dragon Tongues bean. I did the jade bean. I don't know how to pronounce this one, don't laugh at me, but Velour Haricot Vert bush bean. I feel like I should have said that with a French accent. Blue Lake bush beans. And Borlotto bush beans. Look at that pretty coloring on that green bean. So that's what's going on for bush beans. And again, the difference between bush beans and long beans is that bush beans will bush out, right? They'll give you everything at once. Long beans will continue to grow and sporadically give you green beans. Okay, eggplants. I have really come to love eggplants. And last year I grew just to see how I could grow eggplants because, you know, obviously sometimes we try things and we don't get it right the first time, but I just didn't know how I was going to do. So I grew the Casper eggplant last year, and for me, they grew quickly, robustly, and I mean, I had those little things were like this big. I mean, they were a good size. I imagine 3 of them would have been sufficient for us. Now, in addition to that this year, I'm also going to do the Listada de Grandia and the Tai Long green eggplant. As you saw, I have herbs in the garden as well, and I did slow bolt cilantro. It gets really hot here, so I needed something, because I love cilantro, that would not flower so quickly. So that one has been a good one for us. I also did parsley. We have basil that we bought one little store-bought of basil, but then I also put seeds of basil as well around it. So we have basil in there. And I have blue spice basil as well. Okay, for melons, my favorite, the Kajari melon. In fact, there's a video of my husband and my daughter when she was much younger tasting a Kajari melon for the first time, and I love it. This little melon gives me such good memories. I've got the Kaho watermelon growing, along with Silver Yamato. And this year I also want to grow not just watermelons, but melons besides the Kajari melon. So I wanted something that's a staple in a lot of places, which is the Hale's Best 45 melon. Okay, I also did shishito peppers, which they're very good blistered in a little saute pan with a little oil. Jalapeno peppers. That is a must for us. Jalapenos and serrano peppers. We use so many jalapeno and serrano peppers. Along with poblano peppers as well. I also did a bullnose pepper. Okay, squash time. I love squash. My husband loves squash. The kids love squash. I mean, you put some cheese on top of that and whoop, delicious. You can saute it with onions. Let me tell you the ways that you can cook squash. But this year we're doing the early prolific summer squash. The gray zucchini squash. We use these a lot in Mexican like stews, like caldo de res and stuff like that. The Cocozel zucchini squash. I started this one and I actually gave some of these away because I had a limited amount of space in the raised bed. So I had to pick diligently which one I wanted. But we do have in the raised bed lemon squash as well. Squash is another one of those plants that I have to have 2 containers for it because I have so many seeds. I did a zucchini green bush, and this is just to kind of, because I knew I was going to have a couple of plants in the raised bed, I just kind of wanted some that were going to be more compact. So that's where the zucchini green bush comes into play. And then I also did the Ron de Denise, which is like a round squash. Tomatillos, we did the Rio Grande Verde Tomatillo. And in my compost pile, I had seedlings that started to grow. So I figured, well, what loves tons and tons of nutrition and compost? Watermelons and pumpkins. So in that compost pile, I put a couple of seeds of the Howden pumpkin. And because we love to make pumpkin pies for Thanksgiving, I also put sugar pie pumpkin. And then that giant watermelon that I'm just going to let go crazy, I'm not going to trellis it or anything, that one was the Siberian watermelon. Alright guys, so once you select your seeds, you sow them, transplant them, or even if you direct grow them, within a couple of weeks you'll have cutie pies like this. I'll see you next time here at Texas Size Gardening.